There are times in our life of faith when we cannot do as we please. We must live our lives taking one step at a time, asking for God's will, discerning what is right and what is wrong. Our hearts may confess in faith, I will obey as God shows me. I will go if He says go, and I will stop if He says stop. But in reality, in our lives we often want to rush forward with our own good intentions, or perhaps stop quickly, wanting to decide as we please. I think this reflects the human heart, wanting to lead my life as I wish. But if you look closely in such situations, there are often more cases where we do not know what the right answer is. There are more times when we are not sure. There are many times when we run forward but cannot see what is ahead. There are times when we question if the path we are running on is the right one. This is because there are times when God does not open the way, times when He does not let us see the way, and times when He makes us stop. And so, on this path of faith, this journey of faith, there is sometimes a time of waiting. In today's passage, Isaac is going through such a time. Who is Isaac? He is the son of Abraham, the great man of faith. He is the gift Abraham received through faith. He is the one who inherited Abraham's faith. So how great must his faith be? Isaac's faith must have been tremendous. By showing us how Isaac, the man of faith, prepares for his marriage and receives his wife, God is teaching us how we should live our lives of faith. Through Isaac's story, we will try to learn today what the waiting of faith is, and what it means. Isaac was spending his time in sorrow after losing his mother, Sarah. He must have felt empty, hollow, and a sense of longing, and he was about to get married. His father had sent a servant to find a wife for Isaac. In this situation, Isaac was not turning his eyes to other things. He did not try to find any human methods, nor did he try to fill his empty and hollow heart with other things. He did not try to relieve his anxiety and frustration while waiting for a wife he did not know by turning to other things. If you look at verse 63 today, it says Isaac went out to the field to meditate. This meditation signifies time with God, a time to be with God, a time to ask questions, a time to hear answers, and a time to pray and organize one's thoughts. And so, it is a time to discern God's will and come to know it. In that quiet field, he probably poured out his feelings to God. The various sorrows from the loss of his mother, the frustrations about the unknown future, and the hope for the marriage that would take place, he would have quietly laid all these things before God and had a time with Him. This is the image of Isaac, who is spending his time of waiting with a heart that yearns for all things to proceed well, according to God's good will, devoting himself to prayer and meditation. It is an image of being able to entrust everything to God in a situation where he does not know how things are proceeding or what will happen. It is Isaac, preparing for the time when he can make a confession of faith, saying he will go forward in God's will, whatever the results may be, however God may lead. When we think about this time of waiting, this time is not a time of powerlessness. The way to turn the time of waiting into a time of faith is to meditate during that time. When you meet God in that time of waiting, it becomes a time of faith. A person of faith is someone who takes the time to discern God's will. We must pause for a moment from the complexities of life, and in that time when we do not know what is right or wrong, we must have time with God. We must have a time of quiet waiting before God. That waiting is not a time of lack. It is not a time of wandering. It is a time of quiet fellowship with God, a time to discern His will, a time of meditation, a time of faithful waiting. When we look at ourselves, we have so many urgent matters. Things need to be decided quickly, accomplished quickly, and once a decision is made, we have to run quickly. Our lives are so busy. Perhaps that is why our journey of faith is also very busy at times. God, I wish you would do this quickly. God, I wish you would resolve this quickly. Or if you would just let me know quickly, I would either run or stop. But why are you so frustrating, God? We too have this spiritual busyness. Some time ago, the phrase, sloth is a sin, was very popular. So I heard and said many times that we should not be lazy. But then a pastor said something like this: being diligent can also be a sin. I wondered what he meant, and he said, if you are too diligent, there are times when you get ahead of God. Sloth is a sin, but if you leave God behind and get ahead of Him, that can also be a sin. I think he is very right. Being lazy is a sin, and getting ahead is a sin. God meets us in those quiet places of meditation, in those places where we sometimes feel like we are standing still, and our faith grows during that time. This faithful waiting, this time of waiting, is not simply about waiting for time to pass. It is not about letting go and just waiting, thinking, God will take care of it. That is not what it means. As I said before, The waiting of faith must be a time of cultivating and anticipating with a spiritual sense, with a heart that looks forward to God while meditating on His will and His work. When we spend such a time of faith, God does not just leave us alone. What eventually happens to Isaac, who spent this time of faith? If you look at verse 67, it says, Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. He says that Isaac loved this Rebekah, who came from afar without hesitation, and through her he was comforted from the sorrow that came from the void left by his mother. The person of faith who has spent this time of faith is comforted in God's providence. It may feel like you are standing still, frustrated and going through a difficult time, crying out, God, what should I do? But if you meditate in the midst of it, I believe God will give you comfort as a gift in His providence. Yesterday, in our Sunday message, we learned that it was not an easy thing for Rebekah to come to Isaac. After hearing the words about taking Rebekah to be Isaac's wife, her brother Laban and father Bethuel agreed without much thought, but then they realized it was not an easy matter and hesitated in their decision. And what must Rebekah have been like during that time? There must have been many conflicts, as it was a decision to be separated from her parents and siblings for life. But we heard through the word that God made all these things go smoothly. God, who makes things prosperous, directly intervened, coordinated, and was involved, leading everything according to His providence. In this way, according to God's providence, Isaac, the man of faith, was comforted. As the fruit of his faithful waiting, he gained the wife God had prepared and also received comfort. Dear brothers and sisters, what are you looking at this morning? Are there things that are not working out well, causing you some frustration? I bless you to have a time of meditation. We absolutely need that time to discover God's will and to discern it. Even if it seems a little slow, even if we cannot see anything before our eyes, what is certain in that time is that everything is operating within God's providence. The fact is that we are not standing still, but that God is continually working. I hope that you and I will remember the fact that the person of faith who quietly waits for God in this place of meditation, this place of prayer, can taste the grace that God gives. The waiting of faith is never a waste of time. It is not in vain. God's providence is accomplished in a time we did not expect and in a way we did not imagine. And the fruit of that providence is not simply a solution, but it becomes comfort and love given to us. We all have a Rebekah prepared for us. It could be a change in circumstances, it could be a meeting with someone, or it could be peace of mind. But dear friends, what is important is that God gives the best to the one who is in this time of faithful waiting, spending it in meditation. Today begins. Let's set aside our impatience a little and walk with God, discerning His will, asking for His will, meditating as we go. I bless you and me to be people who do so. I hope we can go forward today, remembering God's providence, with expectation and victory.